This line for the Bruins, one of the biggest in hockey. The front line, all three go over the 200-pound mark. They're big, strong, tough, and they like to play the game. Puck at center ice. O'Brien takes Bobby Smith into the boards. We get our first whistle and an offside call. So we're underway with this one. The light dots heading left to right on your screen. Puck into the Boston zone. Smith with the first shot on goal, and Petty steers that aside. Pyrrhus goes into the corner after it. Comes out to O'Reilly, and he clears it out to center ice. North Stars quickly back after it. Gary Sargent with it. They cleared out to center ice. Steve Payne to Bobby Smith into the Boston zone. Al Sims back after it. They wave off any call around the boards by Sims. Held in by the North Stars' Alex Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus with it, moving into the goal. Back of the net for Smith. Centering pass out front. And picked up by Alex Pyrrhus. Barrett had started to move in on it. Pyrrhus checked from behind by O'Reilly. And Barrett drives it to the near corner. Payne gets it out to Sargent at the right point. He's checked at that point, and the puck kicked out to center ice. Picked up now by Fred Barrett. Barrett stick handling at center ice, drives it back into the Boston zone. Bruins bottled up for the first minute and 10 seconds of this period, and now they break out. Moving to center ice, puck fired into the Minnesota end, right out in front. And McNabb steered off the puck that time by Smith, who did a good job of back checking. Dumped right back in again by the Bruins. Edwards back of his goal. Gary Sargent picks it up for the Stars, headmans, and gets it out at center ice for Mike Fiddler. Coming onto the ice was Maneri, and he ran smack into the man he was replacing. North Stars could have very easily ended up with a bench penalty for too many men on the ice there, but very alertly, Pyrrhus going off the ice did not put the stick down and touch the puck. They wave off a call. Fiddler gets it out front. Maneri drives his shot. That's deflected by Middleton, and it goes up into the crowd. We'll have a face-off coming up with 18:11 to go in the...
Boston in sharply against Miller.
Draw controlled by the North Stars, but it comes to center ice. Brad Maxwell back to pick it up. Got tangled up with one of the linesmen. Steers it over to Greg Smith. Smith checked out front by Bob Miller, and the puck knocked down by Gary Doak. Gets it over to Rick Smith. Rink wide to Doak. Doak across the center line, drives it into the Minnesota end. Near corner, Marcotte goes in along with Maneri. The puck picked up by Maxwell. Tried to get it out to Sharpley. Sharpley clears it out to center ice. Miller has it there. He's checked by Sharpley along the near boards. Pass knocked down by Greg Smith. It comes to Brad Maxwell. Lofts it into the Boston zone. They wave off a call on it, and Petty steers it away from the onrushing Fiddler. Puck picked up by Doak. Knocked off his stick, but he gets it over on the side, and the Bruins come back. They dump it into the Minnesota end. The Boston Bruins changing their units here on the fly with 17:21 left to go here in the first period. Sharply checked at center ice by Rattel. Loses the puck. O'Brien clears it along the far boards. Smith picks it up and dumps it back into the Boston end. So far, not anything in the way of real tough saves for either goalie. Puck cleared back out to center ice. Smith drives it right back in again. This is as good a job as forechecking as I've seen the North Stars do in a long, long time, Roger. They've really had the Bruins bottled up. Now here comes Boston. Rattel into the North Stars zone. Gary Edwards clears it off to the side. Karol Grosser after it. Gets it to Gary Sargent. Sargent avoids a check, put it right into the crease area, and Edwards had to make a save on it. They tried to get it up to Zanuzzi. That's knocked away. And Rattel drives it right back into the Minnesota end again. Barrett back of his own goal. Steered away from a check by Jonathan. Fired it up the left wing boards, trying to get it to Tim Young. Dennis O'Brien back after it. Petty handled it, so there's no call, and the puck held in by Sargent. Dumps it back to the far corner again. 16:14 to go in the first period of play. Each team with one shot on goal, but neither one have been of any consequence. They were very easy saves for the goalie to make. At least that's the story at this stage of the game. Stars put the puck back into Zanuzzi. Dumps it out at center ice, gets it to Grosser. Grosser moving in, gets off the quick shot, and he drove it wide and high. Petty steers it to the near corner. Zanuzzi centering pass, nobody there. Picked up on the far side by Bobby Schmatz. Gets it to Rattel. Rattel to the North Star blue line, a drop pass. Rattel has to go back and pick it up now, dumps it in. It's knocked down by Zanuzzi. Over for Fred Barrett. Barrett away from a check by Schmatz. And Barrett now gives it to Grosser. Ole Grosser drives it right back in again, and Petty has to make the save on this one. Rick Smith brings it around the boards. Greg Smith trying to hold it in. 3 Smiths in this game tonight. Rick for the Boston Bruins, Greg and Bobby for the Minnesota North Stars. Moving in all alone is Jonathan. He fired it over the top of the goal. Or excuse me, that was Wensink, not Jonathan. Wensink fired it over the top of the goal. Now Al Pyrus shoots, and Petty makes the save. Cleared away by Rick Smith. We have not had a stoppage of play in this game yet, and we still just are under the 15-minute mark to go here in the first period. O'Reilly moving in. He is dumped out front by Brian Maxwell. Now here's Payne back. Pyrus dumps it in, and we had an offside call. So there's a break on the faceoff. The puck into the Boston zone. Quickly in after it, J.P. Parisi. Rick Smith comes up with it. He's checked from behind. Sends it along the far boards, and the Bruins clear it out to center ice. Picked up by Wensink. He's checked by Younghands. Gets it into McNabb. McNabb loses the puck, and Kent-Eric Anderson comes away with it for Minnesota. Gets around Wensink. Anderson carries on to the Boston blue line and had it knocked off his stick. Stars will have to wait till Anderson gets back onside. They just flip it in as he crosses the blue line. Petty back at the goal, clears it away from Younghands. Held in by Parisi along the near boards, along with McNabb. Cleared out to the point, held in there by Greg Smith. Younghands trying to hold it in, and now the Bruins clear it out to center ice. Greg Smith gets it over to Brian Maxwell. Maxwell crosses the center line and dumps it into the Bruins zone. Wrapped right back out to center by the Bruins, and Greg Smith drives it towards the blue line, knocked down along the near boards by the Bruins. Wensink runs into a hard check from Brian Maxwell. Sharply had to come off the end of his stick, and Gary Edwards alertly comes out and pokes it away. Centering pass, and Edwards smothers that, knocks it off to the side. Play carries on, and right underneath the stick of Bobby Schmatz was the pass from Don Marcotte.
That was a good chance for Schmatz.
Schmatz fanned on it. The Bruins cleared out of their zone. That was the best chance of the game for the Bruins. We have 13-13 to go here in the first period. No score in the game. That time, Chris Maneri with the check, and O'Reilly moves back to center ice. The Bruins with the lead pass now for Bob Miller. He's checked and loses it to Gary Sargent. Clears it along the near board. Sharply gets it up to Maneri. Maneri sends it rink wide for Fred Barrett. Barrett up the left wing. Crosses the blue line. Drop pass. Drive by Fiddler. Petty kicks it out of there. Biggest save of the game for the Bruins so far as Petty stopped the drive by Mike Fiddler. 12:42 left in the first period.
And Mike Fiddler on this forward line. Younghands seeing his pretty good hockey game so far. Some good forechecking and back checking.
That drive by Fiddler was the best chance for either club, and Petty came up with the save. Dennis O'Brien, former North Star, dumps it into the Star zone, and the race is on. Bob Miller there, Gary Sargent and Tom Younghands got there first. Glenn Sharpley held in by O'Reilly. A drive by Miller and the save by Gary Edwards. That's Edwards' toughest save of the night. Younghands and Miller, and O'Reilly smashes Younghands into the boards. We're going to have a penalty coming up, so we'll take the opportunity to pause.
Terry O'Reilly goes for boarding at 7:41 as he took a pretty good long run at Younghands, but some problems.
Young and Marcotte on the draw. North Star's first power play opportunity of the year. Per-Olof Brosser with it. Gets it to Tim Young. Young wheels to center ice. Marcotte is on him. Drops it for Brosser. Brosser headmans. Gets it up to Parisi. J.P. Parisi with Dennis O'Brien after him. Two former teammates back of the Boston goal. Ron Zanuzzi picks it up. Zanuzzi dumps it out to the point to Brosser. Brosser into Young. Rolling puck. Can't control it. Still has his stick on it. Picked up by Parisi. J.P. Parisi in the far corner with it. 1:30 left in the penalty time. Sargent can't hold it in. The North Stars will have to get back onside. Rink wide pass to Brosser. Dump back to Ole. Gets it over to Gary Sargent. Sargent on the blue line gets it to Parisi. Had to dig it out of the linesman's legs. Sargent with it. Gets it over to Parisi. Parisi for Tim Young. Young, a drop pass is still in the Bruin zone. Picked up by Brosser. Brosser moving in for Young. Back to Brosser. Brosser with it. Trying to spread out the Boston defense here. Sargent a drive. He hits the defenseman with it. Got the rebound. Brosser faked the shot. Young fires. And he fired it high over the top of the goal. Held in by Sargent. Centering pass. O'Brien knocks it down. Clears it down the ice. 45 seconds left in the penalty time to Terry O'Reilly. Per-Olof Brosser back to pick up the puck for the North Stars. 5-2. The Stars have outshot the Bruins here in the first period. Gary Sargent up the right wing. Dumps the puck in. Petty reaches out. Took it away from Bobby Smith. Petty got ducked. Smith out front, and Payne couldn't reach out and pull it in. Goes all the way down the ice. Just about 3 inches past the outstretched stick of Steve Payne.
Petty was down and was scrambling to get back. Payne had the open net if he'd been able to handle it.
Puck into the Boston zone. They wave off a call on it. Doak back after it, and he clears it down the ice. Just 7 seconds left into penalty time, so the Bruins have killed it off. Stars with one really good shot on, and Petty had to make the save on that. O'Reilly back on. The Bruins are at full strength. Puck knocked down by Maxwell at the point. Tees it up, fires his shot, and down to block that was Rick Smith. Smith blocked the shot, and now the Bruins come back. Up the left wing. And checked as he moved in was Bobby Schmutz. Greg Smith really laid it on him, and now O'Reilly working Smith over with his stick. Kerry O'Reilly has been called for a penalty. The referee is going to hand out a penalty here with 9. Now we get a little fight going. O'Reilly throwing lefts and rights to Greg Smith. O'Reilly throwing a left. Now Smith has got his shirt. Now left to the helmet by O'Reilly. Trying to work his way loose. Smith's got a pretty good hold on him. Now Smith gets in a right, and another right. O'Reilly trying to come. Oh, a good right hand by Greg Smith. Now O'Reilly comes back with the left. We got a Pier 6 brawl going here. O'Reilly and Greg Smith. O'Reilly was the aggressor throughout the early part, but Smitty came back and gave him all he wanted. Well, they go down. We're going to have penalty time handed out, so while they do, we'll pause with the reminder, the score, the North Stars nothing, the Bruins nothing.
O'Reilly and Greg Smith both go at 10:03. They're both going to get fighting. O'Reilly should get 2 extra for initiating that. I would guess probably roughing or cross-checking. In effect, we'll see.
Here it is again, Raj, and if they carry it through the fight, I think O'Reilly got the best of the early going, and then Smitty came on pretty strong.
That's got to be high sticking or cross-checking right there. There's the beginning. But O'Reilly should get 2 extra.
Going, and when Greg Smith finally decided that the officials weren't going to stop it, he just lit out with some punches of his own and got in some pretty good licks. Puck at center ice. Neither team playing short now with the 2 men in the penalty box. Bruins after it into far corner. Jonathan overskated it, and the Stars come away with it. Fred Barrett carries it on to center ice. Brosser in there. Rattel along with Barrett forces it back into the Minnesota zone. Brosser intercepts, clears it out to center ice. Tim Young after it. Young with Rick Smith back. Smith reached out, knocked the puck off the end of his stick. Clears it along the near boards, picked up there by Jonathan. Jonathan gets it to Rattel. They dump it into the Star zone. Quickly after it is Brosser. Brosser along the near boards for Brad Maxwell, stolen away by Rattel. Rattel sets it up out front. Sims a backhand shot, and Edwards over to make the blocking pad save. Along the near boards, they battle for it again. Cashman had it. Wayne Cashman wearing a helmet. This is Brad Maxwell. Feeds it along the far boards for Brosser into the Boston zone. Jonathan trying to drive it out, held in by Zanuzzi, and picked up by Sims. Gets it out to Rattel. Rattel dumps it for Sims. Al Sims partially fanned on the shot. Dumped it back at the goal. Feeds it out to the point for O'Brien. He couldn't hold it in. Kenny Anderson racing after the puck. Petty gets there first. That's a delay of game penalty right there.
That's 2 for delay of game. That's absolutely correct. Petty did the right thing. He really had no choice, but it's a penalty where there's 11:27. You see Petty.
Marcotte and Sharpley on the draw. Marcotte punches the puck down into the Minnesota end. Brad Maxwell back for it. Gets it over on the side to Gary Sargent. Sargent for Sharpley. Sharpley rink wide for Mike Fiddler. Fiddler dumps it in, and the race is on now. Petty gets there first, clears it away from Maneri. Comes out to the point to Maxwell, cranks up, fires. It's tipped and it goes wide. Marcotte drives it back down the ice. 1:33 left to go in the penalty time. Being served by Wayne Cashman on the delay of game penalty called on Petty. Sargent feeds it up the left wing for Sharpley. Sharpley at center ice. Drop pass for Fiddler. Picked up now by Maxwell. Gets it over to Gary Sargent. Sargent moving in as 2 of the North Stars collided. Has to wait for some help. Maneri gets there trying to dump it back. Picked up instead by the Boston Bruins. Knocked away from the Bruins. Picked up now by Marcotte. Knocked down by Fiddler. 59 seconds left in the power play. Here's Sharpley along the near boards. Sims after it. Maxwell intercepts. Sends it rink wide for Sargent. Sargent for Fiddler. And we get an offside call. So they'll have the...
to play the point alongside Gary Sargent.
Draw goes back into the Minnesota end. Edwards has to make the save on it. Steers it over in the near corner. Pyrus in along with Schmatz and Brian Maxwell. Pyrus digs it out. Now Bobby Smith comes away with it for the Stars. Marcotte out in front. He gets it over to Brian Maxwell. Maxwell too far down the ice. This is going to bring an icing call. So while we have the chance, there's a break in the action to score Boston. Face off in the North Stars end. Marcotte and Smith, and Marcotte got a pretty good shot off that. Doak holds it in along the far boards for J.P. Parisi now. Just 15 seconds left in the North Star penalty. Bruins have done an excellent job at killing this one off as the Stars have just not been able to get anything organized. Bobby Smith with a headlong rush down the ice. Back of the Bruin goal. Here's a drive. Panning on it was Brian Maxwell. Picked up by Pyrus. And Cashman is back on. The Bruins are at full strength. Alex Pyrus after it. Doak tried to bring a stoppage of play, could not. Here's a drive by Brian Maxwell. Tipped out front, loose puck, Parisi, and it's cleared away by Doak. Held in by the North Stars. J.P. Parisi back of the net. And it slide off the end of his stick. He's checked by Rick Smith. Feeds it over on the near side to Bobby Smith. Drops it back at the goal for J.P. Parisi. Tried to get it back to Bobby Smith. Pyrus' shot. And Petty falls out and smothers the puck. Face off in the Bruin zone. Back to get it is Al Sims. McNabb clears it down the ice. Gets it up to Schmatz. Knocked off his stick by Brad Maxwell. Bobby Schmatz with it at center ice. Flips it into the Star zone. Gary Edwards there. Leaves it for Fred Barrett. Barrett's pass knocked down by Schmatz. Tried to center it. Quickly over after it for the North Stars is Payne. His pass knocked down, and Barrett alertly clears it out to center. Al Sims gets it over to Dennis O'Brien. Return pass to Sims. Steve Payne after it for the North Stars. Has a rolling puck. Gets it over to Tom Younghands. Younghands at center ice for Kent-Eric Anderson. O'Brien picks it up. His pass deflected, goes into the Minnesota zone. It's going to bring an icing call, so there's 5:10 left to...
Kent-Eric
puck comes back of the goal. O'Brien clears it around the boards. Gets it along the near side to Winsink. His pass went behind McNabb. Picked off now by Sims. Gets it back up to Winsink. Got around Maxwell. Cranks up. Fires a shot. Edwards saves. Loose puck in front. And Brad Maxwell clears it away. Maxwell starts back to center ice. Trying to get it up to Anderson. He couldn't quite control it. And Schmatz clears it back out to center. Barrett with it. Dumps it back in again. O'Brien. Up for Schmatz. Check at the blue line by Barrett. Couldn't get by him. Brad Maxwell picks it up. His pass deflected. Bobby Schmatz after it. Out to the point, and breaking his stick on the shot was Al Sims. Really cranked up and was going to let one fly, and he broke his stick on it. This will go the length of the ice, and they are going to call icing, which is a bit of a surprise, so there's a break in the action.
There you see the Boston bench. And the check coat is the coach Don Cherry.
Faceoff comes back across the North Star blue line all the way down into the Boston end, and Rick Smith dumps it back down into the Minnesota end, so we will have another icing call coming. Face-off to Jim Petty's left. Comes out to Gary Sargent. He dumps it back into the corner. Rick Smith cranks up, fires it around the boards. It clears out to center ice. Bruins playing almost as if they're a man short. Rattel almost broke loose that time. Puck carried in offside.
Well, Rattel's momentum carried him across the blue line, and he slipped and couldn't get back. Thus the offside, as you see Wayne Cashman headed back for the faceoff. Young, Zanuzzi, and Brasser out on this forward line. Brian Maxwell and Gary Sargent on defense.
Faceoff controlled by Young. He gets it back to Gary Sargent. Over now for Brian Maxwell. Feeds it at center ice to Brasser. Brasser dumps it in. And Zanuzzi is wrestled to the ice. The Bruins pick it up. Rattel's pass deflected off Cashman. Loose puck at center ice. Jean Rattel after it. Now the Bruins flip it in. Gary Edwards has it slide by him. Ron Zanuzzi goes down on top of the puck. He hauled it in and hung on to it. Actually dragged it back in. Want to remind you about a movie coming up Sunday here on W.
Bob Miller and Glenn Sharpley on this faceoff in the Minnesota zone.
3:17 left in the first period. Puck comes right in front. Maxwell hit Barrett and escaped with it. They dump it out front. A shot. Oh, and just firing it wide that time for the Bruins. It was Rick Middleton. Puck back at the goal. They score.
And he missed the first shot, went back and got the goal. You see Brad Maxwell leave Marcotte, and bingo, he's got half the net to work with. Time of the goal is 16:57.
So Boston jumps in front 1-0 in this one. First scoring of the game, and I don't think it will be the last. Dennis O'Brien with it. Checked out front by Sharpley is Middleton. Puck driven in by Barrett. Petty stopped it back at the goal, cleared around the boards, and Marcotte comes away with it, drives it into the Minnesota end. They wave off any call on it. Barrett goes in ahead of Middleton, slips to the ice. Puck comes loose. Sharpley in to dig it out. He's checked, loses it. The puck right out in front. Gary Edwards poked it away. Fiddler's pass deflected at center ice by the Bruins. Maxwell collided with Miller out front, and the puck up into the bench.
And Schmutz out for Boston.
Rick Smith gets it over to Gary Doak. Puck into the Minnesota end. Pyrrhus comes up with it, and they'll move it back into the Boston zone for the faceoff. A break in the action to score. Faceoff controlled by the Bruins. Peter McNabb with it around the boards, trying to get it on the near side to Winsink. He's checked by Pyrrhus, and we will have Smith and McNabb on the draw. Smith gets it out to Sargent, steers it over to Brian Maxwell, fires a shot. Petty save, rebound. He got the stick up to stop Parisi's shot. Brian Maxwell, another shot, and a rebound by Pyrrhus, cleared away by Petty, gloves the puck and hangs on to it.
Well, Petty had some good luck and also did some good goaltending. Now watch the next shot coming up. Oh, it hit the pipe. You saw Petty snap the stick up, but I think it was too late. I think that hit the pipe. Here's the final drive by Maxwell, and a swipe at it by
Pyrrhus. Make a change. Smith out at left defense now in place of Brian Maxwell. O'Brien comes away with it for the Bruins. He's checked by Bobby Smith. Rattel headmans. It's held in by Pyrrhus, trying to get it back out to Parisi. Now a pass by Smith to Parisi, knocked down. Bobby Smith there trying to dig it out. Does along the near board. Some good digging by Bobby Smith. And now the Bruins come away with it. Rattel gets it over on the far side to O'Reilly. To Rattel, poked away by Greg Smith. Rattel after it, trying to feed it out to the point. Does to Al Sims. Back to O'Reilly, intercepted by Gary Sargent. Pyrrhus with it. Now Gary Sargent comes away and starts Parisi up the left wing. J.P. Parisi across the Boston blue line. Dumps it in, minute for Pyrrhus. Parisi picks up the deflection along the near boards, gets it back to Bobby Smith. Smith with it. Wheeling. A minute, 4 seconds left to go in the period. The pass picked off by Rattel, and he gets it over to Terry O'Reilly. O'Reilly, stick handling at center ice, gets it to Rattel. Rattel. One of the North Stars has lost his stick. Rattel to Rick Smith, deflected away by Greg Smith, who's the man without a stick, but he got his skates on it. Parisi trying to force a face-off. He and O'Reilly go down. Rattel centers it, picked off. Back at the goal by Jonathan. Jonathan trying to put it out to the point. Does a drive from there. He hit the side of the post. It was Gary Doak with a shot, and he hit the outside of the post. Still in the North Star zone, and now Pyrrhus comes away with it with 28 seconds left in the period. Al Pyrrhus gets around to check. Carries on, still has the puck. Now he's double teamed, still has the puck between his legs, trying to get a face-off. No whistle yet, the puck comes loose. Rattel is checked, he goes down, and the Bruins get it out to center ice with 12 seconds left to go in the period. Brad Maxwell from long range fires the long shot. Petty handles that easily. Just 4 seconds left in the period. Miller comes away with it for Boston, and there is the siren to end the first. 20 minutes of this one. Gary Sargent takes the puck from Bobby Smith, who won the opening draw. Fred Barrett rushes to the center line and drives it into the Boston end. Pyrrhus goes in along with Sims in the corner to try to force the face-off in the Boston end, and he gets it right away.
Barry Howell's doing a lot of juggling tonight. Smith has been out with Peter McNabb, has been a good player for Boston over the past 3 years.
Puck picked up by Sims. Al Sims across the center line and into the Minnesota zone with the puck. Gary Edwards there to stop it. He has a man coming behind him, didn't see him. Bobby Smith clears it to the far corner for Alex Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus off the boards for Fred Barrett. Barrett trying to get it up to Smith, who tips it to center ice, and Sims took Smith to the ice. Along the near boards, McNabb is tied up. Payne and Schmutz got his stick up. Now here's Bobby Smith moving in. Smith moving in, tries to put it in the crease, still has it. And coming out on top of it.
See, Dennis O'Brien has got him pretty well wrapped up right here. Trying to just and Marcotte.
Marcotte up front. Doak and Rick Smith, the defenseman right now. This is Gary Doak after it, held in by Maneri. Miller and Sharpley go after it, and there to dig it out is Gary Doak. Doak's pass for Greg Smith, broken up. Still in the North Star zone. Sharpley clears it away at the last minute. Picked up by Miller. Drives his shot. He's wide with it. Tipped by Marcotte. And Glenn Sharpley comes away with it. Checked by from behind. Still has it. Picked off his stick by Middleton. Tried to get it into Marcotte. And Brad Maxwell hit him all tied up. Brad Maxwell off the boards. Loose puck right there. Marcotte has it. Took the shot and he missed just wide to the right. And Miller hammered into the boards by Maneri. Now Miller and Maneri go to the near corner. Marcotte digging away.
Anderson's going to play center. Younghans will take the draw. He can play center as well. We'll see how they come up the ice.
The draw controlled by Miller. They get it out to Doak at the right point. Dumps it in back of the goal. Brad Maxwell bouncing puck. He clears it away, and it comes all the way out to center ice. Gary Doak over to Rick Smith. Into the Minnesota end. Greg Smith around the boards. Kent-Eric Anderson comes away with it. Anderson stick handles his way by one man on his backhand, moving in, and knocked off his stick by Doak. Younghans there to pick it up, brings it out to the point to Greg Smith. Fanned on a shot. Younghans picks it up, shoots, and he fired it wide and high to the left. Back of the goal. The goaltender out of the crease area, held in by the North Stars. Parisi after it. Smith falls. Marcotte has it, and he clears it out to center ice. Picked up out there by Brad Maxwell. Puts it on Anderson's stick. Anderson gets it over to Parisi. Jay Peak. And
Young will take the face-off against John Rattel of the Rangers, as you see, very near to center ice.
17:42 to go here in the second period. Rattel comes away with the puck into the North Star zone with it. Gary Edwards handles it, leaves it for Fred Barrett. Barrett circles away from a check by Terry O'Reilly. Off the boards out to center ice. Dennis O'Brien has it. Runs into one of the North Stars. Peril of Brosser. Fred Barrett again clears the puck out to center. Picked up by Young. Jim Young to the Boston blue line. Drives the shot. And Petty clears that off to the side. O'Brien has it stolen away by Barrett. Put it on one-man stick, and he was checked out of the play neatly. As coming over to break that up was Al Sims. Now here comes the Bruins back with Rattel. Gets it up on the far side to Jonathan. Jonathan out of the point to Sims. His shot hits Tim Young. Young with the puck. Gets it to Brosser. Brosser screens for Young. Young drives the shot, and he's wide to the left with it. Fred Barrett there to hold it in. A quick shot by Zanuzzi, and Petty makes the save again. I tell you, this Jim Petty may not have been in too many NHL games, but he's conducted himself admirably so far tonight. He's played a heck of a game. Stars have outshot the Bruins now 13-7 with 16:34 to go here in the second period. Puck back into the North Star end. Gary Edwards leaves it for Dennis O'Brien. The Bruins changing on the fly. Puck comes up the near boards, held in by Boston, picked up by Schmotz. Schmotz dumps it to the near corner. Brosser back after it. Peril of Brosser. It's Zanuzzi. Zanuzzi dumps it into the Boston zone, and now the North Stars will change. Rick Smith heads back to center ice for the Bruins. Stars complete their line change. Puck dumped in. Gary Edwards way out of the goal. Still out of goal. Puck picked up by Cashman. They go to the far corner after it. A battle by Foster. Now we're playing games with the face-off again. Haven't seen that so far this year. Players yelled about that a lot last year. Doak holds it in for the Bruins. Greg Smith hauled down by Schmotz. Puck picked up by the Stars. Held in out at the point by Rick Smith. Gary Edwards has to make the save. Greg Smith with it. Checked out front by Foster. Alex Pyrus moves to center ice for Minnesota. Dumps it in. Bobby Smith giving chase. Schmotz after him. Smith trying to center it. Steve Payne there. Slips and falls. Bobby Smith with it. Puts it out front. Nobody there. And it went right underneath Pyrus' stick. And it's cleared out to center ice by Schmotz. Picked up by Greg Smith. Right back into the Bruin zone again. And Petty has to come out and drop it back at the goal for Rick Smith. 15-15 left in the second period as Gary Doak moves to center ice. Feeds it to Cashman up the left wing. Brad Maxwell after it, overskated it. Now feeds it along the near boards. O'Brien holds it in for the Bruins. Cashman in the far corner, checked by Brad Maxwell. Gets it out to Alex Pyrus. Off the boards, out to center ice, and Dennis O'Brien over after it for the Bruins. Picked up now by Maxwell. Brad Maxwell moving in, drops it for Bobby Smith. Smith double teamed, has it knocked off his stick. Picks it up and dumps it into the corner. O'Brien comes away with it. Bobby Smith comes away to Payne, had it too high in the air, and Payne couldn't get his stick down on it. Pyrrhus holds it in. Rick Smith clears it out to center ice, and Greg Smith picks it up for the North Stars. Brad Maxwell gets it to Bobby Smith. Greg Smith between Dennis O'Brien's leg. Greg Smith cranks up, shoots. Petty makes the save. Rick Smith comes away with it. Too far for Forbes. He couldn't control it. They wave off a call. Sharpley picks it up. It's checked by Schmaltz. Miller along the near boards. And Mike Fiddler comes away with it for Minnesota. Almost cutting between the two defensemen was Chris Maneri, but getting back was Gary Doak on time to push it away from him. Greg Smith pushed into the boards by Miller. Gets it over to Brad Maxwell. Maxwell starts Sharpley back. Sharpley to Fiddler into the Boston zone with it. Petty way out of the goal again. And Maneri took a shot at Petty. And in turn, Al Sims took a shot at Maneri. And Sims is going to go. So there's a break in the action.
Well, Boston's goaltender, Jim Petty, is called for slashing at 6:21. Notice how they put that keep smiling sign right in front of the penalty box.
And the Bruins, Don Marcotte pokes the puck down the ice, and quickly after it is Middleton, and Gary Edwards comes out of goal to steer it away from him. Gary Sargent gets it over to Per-Olof Grosser. Grosser off the boards. Edwards alertly there. The Bruins forechecking like mad right now in the North Star zone. Now a left wing pass for J.P. Parisi, and he carries it out to center ice. Rink wide, gets it up to Zanuzzi, cranks up, partially fanned on the shot. Petty grabs it and hangs on to it. Another movie.
Zanuzzi got a shot that time, but I think he had a rolling puck. It didn't do much for him. 1:34 left in the penalty to Petty being served by Miller.
O'Brien in the face-off circle. That's what occasioned the whistle. Sargent steers it into Zanuzzi. Back out to Gary Sargent. Drives his shot. That's deflected by Marcotte. Knocked down. A shot by Zanuzzi. Held in at the left point by Brosser. Over on the side. Too far for Tim Young. Young knocks it down. Drops it back in for Parisi. J.P. Parisi with it. Parisi in the far corner. 1:14 left to go in the penalty time. They get it out to Sargent. Drives a shot. That hits traffic in front. Loose puck. It's still lying there, and one man goes down. Here's Gary Sargent. Gets it over to Brosser. Brosser fires into traffic. Young has it. Tim Young moving in. Young dumps it out to Brosser. Brosser over for Sargent. He fires. Tipped by Parisi, and it goes wide. Brosser dumps it in for Young. North Stars controlling the puck very well on this power play. Young for Brosser. Fires a shot, and now Middleton breaks away. Brosser trying to catch him. Middleton moving in. Oh, and Edwards comes out to poke it off his stick. Gary Edwards breaks it up. Now Parisi comes away with 30 seconds left in the penalty time. Parisi to the Boston blue line, and we had
25 seconds remaining in the penalty. North Stars will have to hurry.
Puck back into Boston zone. Good power play for the North Stars. Several opportunities, but a lot of Boston traffic around that goal. They really keep it jammed up in front. Tough for a puck to get through there. They clear it down the ice. Should just about do it for the power play. Just 10 seconds left in the penalty time. Now here's Sharpley. Sharpley as Maneri breaking. He shoots, and Petty comes out and makes another big save for the Bruins. Another shot. Sharpley rebound. Fiddler after it. They battle, and Petty goes down. On top of the puck as Sharpley and Fiddler were there battling for the rebound. They took shot after shot, and Petty made save after save. And I don't think he knew he made half of them.
I'll tell you, he made a heck of a job right now. Here you see the last rush by Maneri. Puck comes away wide, all the way over to the other wing. You see Maneri hit it with his glove and just flipped it out in front. There's a shot by Maneri. Fiddler's right in front, scratching for it, but if anything, the quarters are just too close, and then they scoop it into the goaltender, Petty. He's doing a good job.
Game right now has been the rookie goaltender, Jim Petty. He has been superb. Here's Greg Smith. Dumps it in back of the goal. Petty way out of the net again. Luckily for him, the puck took a hop and jumped over the stick of Mike Fiddler. Now Rick Smith clears it out front, dumped right back in again by Fiddler. Gary Doak with it at center ice. Brad Maxwell picks it up at his own blue line. Maxwell for Greg Smith. Smith gets around a check by Terry O'Reilly, dumps it into the Boston zone. Rick Smith trying to drive it around the boards. It's up on the dasher sharply there, trying to hold it in to force a face-off. Puck comes out to center ice. Back into the Boston zone again. The Bruins put it in there. Doak. Rick Smith. We have 10:52 left to go in the second period. Boston holding on to that 1-0 lead. Terry O'Reilly has the puck knocked off his stick. Gary Doak after it across the center line, and he fires it in. Far corner, Maneri goes in along with Jonathan. Rattel comes away with it. John Rattel for Jonathan on his backhand, and he just fired it wide. Greg Smith partially broke it up. Picked up by O'Reilly. O'Reilly dumps it in front, and Brad Maxwell's there to pick it off for the North Stars. Maxwell back of his goal. Starts Fiddler up the left wing. Mike Fiddler had it slide off the end of his stick, now drives it in. He and O'Brien collide. O'Brien gave Fiddler an elbow, and that brought a round of boos from the home crowd. Jonathan dumps the puck back into the Minnesota zone again. Gary Sargent after it. Boston changing on the fly. Sargent off the boards. Bobby Smith. Gary Sargent carries on. Sargent at center ice. The Bemidji native drives a shot, and he just missed wide on the right-hand side as we look at it. Just missed about an inch wide on the right-hand side. Boy, Gary's got a good shot from out there. Who got there first? Fred Barrett did, and O'Reilly goes down. So
Bobby Smith will take this face off against Peter McNabb. That's the Minnesota blue line, you see, or the Boston Willard blue line.
Puck picked up by Al Sims. Steers it over for Dennis O'Brien. The former North Star right back to Sims. 9:30 left in the second period. They had McNabb breaking, couldn't get it to him. A quick shot by Sargent, and Petty got the blocking pad on that. Loose puck, put it right out in front. It's picked off by McNabb. Peter McNabb starts back for the Bruins. Big rangy center. Checked by Barrett. They both go down. And we had an offside call. Drive it into the North Star end. Middleton after it. He lost his stick. Picked up and cleared along the near boards by Greg Smith. Comes out to center ice. Rick Smith picks it off for Boston. Gary Doak had a little trouble with it. Now dumps it back in again. Edwards off on the side for Greg Smith. Miller cut in front of him. Now Mike Fiddler comes away with it. Put it right on the stick of Marcotte when we had an offside call. Evidently, Bruins control the draw. Rick Smith comes away with it and went in off. Again, the Bruins get the draw. Smith drives it in. Gary Edwards steers it to the far corner. Brad Maxwell for Greg Smith. Around the boards for Per-Olof Brosser. Brosser gets it out at center ice. Got it to Zanuzzi. Trying to get it to Tim Young. He put it into the Boston zone, but nobody there, and it's picked up by O'Reilly and cleared out to center ice. Rattel up the right wing. Dumps it into the near corner. O'Reilly comes in, busting everybody aside. O'Reilly taken to the boards by Maxwell. They battle, and Rattel comes away with the puck. Rattel has it knocked off his stick by Brosser. Now Young starts back for Brosser. Brosser with Zanuzzi on his right, Young on his left. He feeds Tim Young. Centering pass, and Petty came out glove bucket.
Anderson and McNabb on the faceoff.
Right out front to Gary Sargent. Fires his shot, and Petty makes save. Parisi rebound. Loose puck, and it's picked up by Winsink and cleared away. Knocked down by Fred Barrett. Stars have had some excellent opportunities, but Petty has been able to make the saves. Anderson goes to the boards along with Sims. Puck put right out front by Parisi, and Youngen's shot goes over the top of the goal, partially deflected. Anderson holds it in, dumps it for Younghans. Younghans taken to the boards. Parisi has it. JP drops it in front for Young, or Anderson rather. Anderson out front for Younghans. He's checked by McNabb. Parisi there battling back of the goal. Dumps Sims. Anderson there to pull it in, and the whistle blows finally to stop play. Draw controlled by Young finally. Puts it in front. Nobody home, and Marcotte over to pick it up. Just lost it high in the air out to center ice. Gary Sargent after it. Foster after him. Sargent still has the puck. Around the boards for Tim Young. Now the Stars move back. Young trying to split the defense. Down he goes. No tripping. The fans want a tripping call, but I don't believe there was any. They just sandwiched him, and he went down. Puck out in front, cleared away by Rick Smith. Marcotte, right wing pass for Schmatz. Couldn't control it. Fred Barrett has it, trying to get it up to Brosser. Intercepted by Doak. Doak for Rick Smith. Loose puck, and is just poked out to center ice by Doak. Picked up by Sargent, driven into the Boston end. Took a pretty good shot for his efforts. This is Rick Smith with it. Leaves it behind him for Doak. Gary Doak puts it on Schmott's stick at center ice. He drives the long shot into the Star zone. Ron Zanuzzi after it. And Zanuzzi dumps it down the ice. So there will be another break in the action with the score.
To go, second period.
Draw comes right into the crease area. Cleared away by Brad Maxwell. Out to the left point. They dump it in. Maxwell after it. Feeds it around the boards for Greg Smith. Smith for Bobby Smith. Too far for Alex Pyrus. Cutting back after it as Sims clears it away from Pyrus, and it hopped the stick of Steve Payne. Brad Maxwell tried to keep it in. Bruins control the draw. Sims gets it over to Dennis O'Brien. Al Sims crosses the center line and fires it in. Steve Payne after it quickly for the North Stars. Still has it. Gets it to Bobby Smith. Return pass to Payne. Trying to split the defense. And the puck knocked off his stick. Now Middleton back to the Minnesota blue line. He tries to go through the defense. They're going to have a penalty coming up to Greg Smith. Well, they do call tripping in this case. Greg is
37. Get another look at it. Smith got the stick in there pretty good. Not too much gripe about that one. Power play chance.
Anderson. McNabb gets it back to Rick Smith. Cranks up, takes the first shot, deflected out front, and cleared down the ice by the North Stars. So that'll kill about 15 to 20 seconds of the power play opportunity. Boston able to kill off the first two Minnesota power plays very, very well, but the Stars were outstanding on their last one. Let's see what the Bruins do with their first real power play opportunity of the night. O'Reilly trying to get by Gary Sargent. Cannot. Feeds it out to Rick Smith. Tees it up, trying to put it into the slot. It's picked off by Kent-Eric Anderson. And Kenta starts back up the right side. Gets by Smith. He's got a man with him. Takes the shot, and Petty kicked it out of there again. He has been just super in the Boston goal tonight. Here's O'Reilly back for the Bruins. Drop pass. Schmott's cruising in, fires his shot. Edwards makes the save. Loose puck picked up by the North Stars. Anderson again back to center ice with it. And he dumps it into the Boston zone and heads for the Minnesota bench. 1 minute left to go in Greg Smith's penalty time. Boy, Petty has just been outstanding for Boston tonight. He has kicked out everything the North Stars have thrown up there, and they've had some mighty good chances at him. Smith over for Schmott's. Drives it into the Minnesota end. Gary Edwards stops it back at the goal. Leaves it for Greg Smith. It comes right off the boards to Bobby Schmott's, though. Into the corner for O'Reilly. He's checked by Smith. O'Reilly comes away with it, gets it to McNabb. McNabb moving in, puts it out front to Rick Smith, and it bounced off his stick. Brosser after him. McNabb there. Brosser comes away with it and clears it down the ice. Here's Anderson racing after it. And Rick Smith comes away with it. Ron Zanuzzi was stride for stride with him. Terry O'Reilly for Bobby Schmott's. Stars pick up their checking. Zanuzzi checking Schmott's. Just 12 seconds left in the penalty time. Knocked down by Zanuzzi, who's lost his stick. Now here's Rick Smith coming back to the Minnesota blue line, and that's broken up by Gary Sargent. Sargent breaking up the right side. Has a man with him. Sargent shoots. Score! Gary Sargent! It was not a short-handed goal. Greg Smith had stepped back on the ice, but Gary Sargent, unassisted, ties it up. And look at the North Stars mob Gary Sargent.
That's the third of the year for Sargent. No power play goal because Smith was back on. Sargent is on his off wing, as you see. Snaps off the quick wrist shot and beat Petty to his stick side. Well, that's the...
Well, I tell you,
41.
So we're tied at 1 apiece with 3:15 left to go in the second period. Bruins with the puck. They dump it back into the Minnesota end. We get an icing call.
It was just a very, very...
Here's a drive by Fiddler, and he hit the side of the goal with it. He hit the side of the post. And the Bruins clear it, not out. Held in by Fiddler, dumps it back to the far corner. Stars putting on pressure. Al Sims with it, just lifts it high in the air, comes to center ice. Greg Smith knocks it down, gets it to Maneri, and he dumps it back into the Boston zone. O'Brien clears it out to center ice. Maneri has it, and now picked up by Middleton. Middleton moves in for the Bruins. Around one man, Middleton checked from behind by Fiddler. Good job by Mike Fiddler as he back-checked very well to pick up Middleton. Brad Maxwell starts back, feeds Fiddler up the left wing. Long lead pass, a little bit too far for Maneri. Petty out of the goal, around the boards, trying to get it over. The Cashman is shot by Fiddler, and Petty kicked that one up into the crowd. There's a break in the action. On the face-off, the puck controlled by the North Stars. J.P. Parisi with it. Bob Miller takes him down. They push and shove the puck underneath Parisi, and we want the crowd on hand here.
It really has. It's filled in quite nicely. Not a capacity crowd, but not that far from it either.
Sims clears the puck around the boards. Fred Barrett after it. Gets it over to Gary Sargent. Sargent right down the ice, and that's going to be on. Petty had to make the save. Now the Bruins start back. Gary Doak. Rink wide for Miller. Couldn't handle it. Bobby Smith comes away with it. Gets around one man. Smith moving in, and back to break it up is Gary Doak. Stars trying to hold it in. Miller comes away with it. Gets it to Foster. Foster up the right wing. Cranks up. Fires. Edwards saves. Rebound. Miller back at the goal. Taken into the boards by Parisi. Marcotte in there. Puts it out front. A shot. Edwards way out to make the save on Foster. And the puck held in by Dennis O'Brien. O'Brien dumps it back in around the boards. Al Pyrus after it. He and Marcotte go to the boards. Marcotte kicks it back at the goal. Gary Sargent picks it up. Sargent, check from behind, still has the puck. Lost it momentarily. Now gets it to Parisi. No, O'Brien picked it up. And that hit traffic in front. Now Sargent starts back. Gets it to Pyrus. Pyrus at the Boston blue line. Feeds it over to Smith. Smith overskated the puck. He had the goalie coming out, and he had the puck slide off the end of his stick. 41 seconds left to go in the period, and it goes up into the...
Face off in the Boston end. Brasser against Rattel.
Controlled by the Bruins. Dennis O'Brien with it. Wraps it around the boards. Zanuzzi picks it up, holds it in. Takes the quick shot. He hits Sims with that. Comes to the near corner. Schmotz after it. Around the boards as he and Zanuzzi collide. Al Sims picks it up. Clears it out to center ice. Rattel, the smooth handling center of the Bruins, picks it up. Knocked down by Brad Maxwell. Dumps it back out to center ice with 18 seconds left to go in the period. Rattel after it. Greg Smith gets it over on the side to Kent-Eric Anderson. Anderson moving in. Oh, he got it too far. Put it out front. Brasser fired and didn't get much on it. 4 seconds left in the period. The Bruins trying to take the pressure off.
St. Louis. Fred Sharpley against Miller on the face-off.
Sharpley gets the draw. It's picked up by Middleton. Cleared away to the side by Maneri, and O'Brien dumps it back into the Minnesota end. We're underway with the third period of play. All tied at 1 goal apiece. Puck loose in the North Star zone. Middleton slipped and fell. Sargent takes Miller to the boards. Middleton is checked by Sharpley and Barrett. Now Miller takes Barrett to the boards, but he cleared the puck out to center ice. Sims after it. Picked up by Barrett. Barrett over to Gary Sargent. Barrett with it for Sharpley. Just missed the stick of Mike Fiddler, and this will bring an icing call. No, Petty had to handle it, so they waved off the call. Puck dumped out to center ice. Gary Sargent with it. Sharpley has his pass picked off by Miller. Miller collides with O'Brien. Puck knocked down by Gary Sargent, and he drives it into the Boston end. Jim Petty back at the goal. He has been phenomenal for the Bruins tonight. Around the boards, gets it to Middleton. Steers it to Bob Miller. Intercepted by Chris Maneri. Cranks up, fires a long shot that's wide and high, and the North Stars change their units with the puck in the Boston end. Middleton checked out front by Payne. Puck driven in by Sims. Greg Smith there to clear it out to center ice. Payne took it right back in again. Taken away from him by Jonathan. And Jonathan with a high lob pass. It stays up on the dasher all the way around the boards. Greg Smith. Bobby Schmotz there to intercept it. Put it right out in front. And it almost went off Brad Maxwell's stick. A quick shot taken by Rattel, and Edwards had to make the save. Now Smith. Left wing pass for Maneri. That's tipped by the North Stars physically, but they backed off a little bit here in the last 30 seconds or so. See what the rest of the time carries with it. Bobby Schmotz with a long drive. That's wide. Maxwell clears it away. Zanuzzi after it in the near corner. Zanuzzi checked out front, loses the puck. Picked up by Rick Smith. Centering pass just beyond the stick of Jonathan. Picked up now by Greg Smith of the North Stars. Feeds it over to Brad Maxwell. Maxwell. Long pass out at center ice. It goes the length of the ice. And, well, Brasser cut it in front of the Bruin and was hauled off the puck. Controlled by the North Stars. Fred Barrett retreats back of the net. Feeds Bobby Smith. In turn feeds J.P. Parisi, and the North Stars captain dumps it into the Boston end. Petty way out of the goal again. He likes to wander a little bit down there. They trap it up along the boards. We'll have a face-off coming up. Battle for the drop. Parisi gets it out front. Sargent drills a shot, and he just missed wide to the right. He was about a foot off with that one.
By Parisi off the face-off. You see him wrestle the man out of the play and put it back on Sargent's stick.
Face-off outside the Boston blue line. Dennis O'Brien with it. Gets it over to Sims. Bruins dump it into the North Star zone. Edwards back of the net. Fred Barrett gets there. Almost picked off. Parisi starts back now. JP headmans for Bobby Smith. A little bit too far, and Dennis O'Brien picks that off. Off the boards for Sargent. Fred Barrett watches it slide by the goal. Feeds it over to Gary Sargent. Tipped out to center ice by Bobby Smith. They wave off a call on it, and Al Sims hustles back after it. Sims around the boards. Parisi trying to trap it up along the boards for a face-off. It comes loose out to center ice. Gary Sargent picks it up. Pyrus dumps it back into the Boston end. O'Brien checked by Bobby Smith. Cleared away by McNabb, and now the Bruins start back. Terry O'Reilly. Minnesota blue line. Drop pass, and Pyrus dumps O'Reilly. And Greg Smith clears it around the boards. Nobody goes after it. A quick shot. And Bobby Smith over to break that up. Now J.P. Parisi starts back. Parisi with Pyrus on his right. And Pyrus wheels and heads for the Minnesota bench as Parisi goes down. O'Reilly picks up the puck for the Bruins. 16-14 left in the game. O'Reilly back to center ice into the Minnesota zone with his pass. Gary Edwards out of the goal, has some trouble with it. He's still not in the goal, and he just about courted disaster there. But Chris Maneri was there to clear it away. Mike Fiddler after it. They get it to Bob Miller. Gets around to check. Miller trying to get it back to...
Sharpley and Miller would take the face-off outside the Minnesota blue line. 15:55 to go in a 1-1 hockey game.
Draw comes back into the Minnesota end. Greg Smith with it. Brian Maxwell out there for the first time since the first period. Chris Maneri with it off the boards into the Boston end. Sharpley trying to catch up with it, trying to center it. He's checked out front by Doak. Miller gets in there along with him. They talk cautious. They don't want to make a mistake here.
In this kind of game.
Comes out to Greg Smith. Drives his shot. That hit traffic in front. And Marcotte after it. But Brian Maxwell gets back there first. Feeds it back for Greg Smith. Smith along the boards for Maneri. Maneri banks it out at center ice. Picked up now by Bob Miller. Miller moving in for the Bruins. Maxwell there to pick up the puck. Brad Maxwell gets it to Mike Fiddler. Fiddler has Maneri with him. Drives a long shot, and that hits Sims. Here come the Bruins back. Marcotte up the left wing. Drives a shot. He's wide to the left with it. And Brian Maxwell there to clear it around the boards. It'll come back to center ice. Fiddler picks it up. O'Brien after him, and he overskated the puck. Miller checked out front by Maneri. Still has the puck and dumps it into the Minnesota end. 14:58 left to go. We're tied at a goal apiece here in the third period. Brian Maxwell with it. Dumps it off for Greg Smith. Smith carries on to center ice and flips it into the Boston zone. O'Brien tipped the puck and there was no call. Yeah, now they get the call. He tipped it above him.
In the Boston end.
Held in by Gary Sargent. Sargent on his backhand. Dumps it in back of the goal. Petty got a stick on that. Trying to dig it out as Per-Olof Brosser took a shot from O'Brien. Picked up by Younghands. Tom Younghands. Now the Bruins come away with it. Pass comes on the near side to Jonathan. Back to Sims, who drives it into the Minnesota zone. Schmaltz after it. He's taken into the boards by Barrett. Younghands goes in after it. Jonathan spins him out of the way, but the North Stars come away with the puck. Per-Olof Brosser. Kent-Erik Anderson on his left. He feeds Anderson. Anderson, quick shot. He's wide with it. Younghands drives his shot. That hit the defenseman. Younghands goes down in the corner along with the Boston defenseman. Puck still in the Boston zone. Brosser dumps it back in behind him. Jonathan picks it up, and he dumps it out to center ice to take the pressure off. Gary Sargent with it. 13:53 left to go in this third and final period. Still tied at a goal apiece. Sargent in his own zone. Rink wide to Fred Barrett. Barrett's pass deflected comes to Al Pyrus. Back in for Gary Sargent. Sargent across the center line. Puts it into the Boston zone. Petty out of the goal. Clears it away from Pyrus along the near boards. They check Jonathan. They go in along the boards. And the North Stars come away with it. Bobby Smith. And Jonathan hammers him into the boards. Smith carries on, though. Puck cleared away from Dennis O'Brien. Alex Pyrus there to pick it up. Pyrus with it. Trying to dump it back in for Parisi. Pyrus dump. Smith's pass blocked. They get it out front. Here's a shot by Maxwell. Petty saves.
Smith and McNabb will take this face-off as we resume. Linesman Gordon Brosiker had to go down and retrieve a stick. Here's that last shot. Good hard wrist shot. The feed by Bobby Smith. J.P. Parisi right at the doorstep waiting.
Has some trouble down in the Boston bench right now. I don't know whether they're having some trouble with some
face-off.
Okay.
12 to go in the game. 1-1 tie.
Draw comes back to Rick Smith. Smith back of his own net. Doak's pass is behind McNabb, picked up now by Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus's pass in turn is behind Bobby Smith. The Bruins dump it into the North Star zone. Greg Smith with it. Greg for Bobby Smith. Checked by McNabb, still has it, now dumps it along the boards out to center ice, picked up by Rick Smith, and offside.
Too much himself. When he gets over that, he'll be all right.
I think he's going to be a super hockey player, though. Bobby Smith with it, gets it out to the point to Greg Smith, pass in along the boards, picked up by Doak, and he gets it to McNabb. McNabb's pass up to Terry O'Reilly, driven into the North Star end, cleared away by Edwards. J.P. Parisi checks, still has it, now checked again. Goes down along with O'Reilly. They battle back at the goal. O'Reilly is as tenacious as they come. Winsing comes in and kicks it loose. Picked up now by O'Reilly. Gets it out to Doak. Doak drives the shot. Edwards makes the save. A sprawling save by Gary Edwards. Held in by Sims. We have a whistle. Seemed to dive at the last minute.
Perfect example of the Bruins style of play. They scuffle and scuffle, and they wind up with a pretty good shot on goal right here.
Well, they use that muscle very well back at the goal right there.
That went through some traffic. Well, that's the case of Edwards, I think, being in the right place.
Line. Sharpley and Miller on the draw. Sharpley gets the draw back to Gary Sargent. Sargent with it. Feeds it over to Fred Barrett. Barrett lost the puck. Comes to Sharpley at center ice, back to Sargent. Fred Barrett off the boards, picked up by Mike Fiddler. Fiddler back to the Boston blue line. Has Sharpley and Maneri with him to Sharpley. They score! A beautiful pass by Mike Fiddler, and Glenn Sharpley puts it in the net. And the North Stars take a 2-1 lead.
Watch this pass by Mike Fiddler. You can see it's getting pretty crowded right now. Sharpley's number 7. Look at that pass right on Sharpley's stick, and bingo. Petty has no chance on it. Time of the goal is 8:13.
Fiddler and Glenn Sharpley. So the Stars lead for the first time in the game, 2-1 on the goal by Sharpley. Picture-perfect pass by Mike Fiddler. Puck cleared out to center ice. They get it over on the wing. A drive by Middleton, and Edwards gloves that. Falls back into the crease there.
They got caught on it. Here's the last save.
Puck controlled by the Bruins. They get it out to the point. Picked up by Miller. Drives his shot. That hit traffic off to the side. Kent Anderson with it. Lays it for Ole Brosser. Brosser off the boards for Brad Maxwell. Maxwell just dumps it out to center ice. Oh, no offside call. Smith was way outside the blue line when he knocked it down, and they didn't call it. Now here comes Zanuzzi up the right wing. Zanuzzi cranks up, drives a long shot, and he just missed wide on the left. Brosser trying to hold it in, but it's picked up instead by Jonathan. Jonathan lofts it down the ice. Picked up by Fred Barrett for the North Stars. Gets it over to Maxwell. Center ice picked up by the Bruins. Rick Smith moving in. Smith, drop pass out front for Schmaltz. Goes to the far corner. Barrett there to pick it up around the boards, and they get it over to Ron Zanuzzi. We have 10:43 left to go in the game. The North Stars lead it 2-1. Zanuzzi, long shot again, and Petty makes the save. 30-15. The shots on goal right now. If I'm not mistaken, that's 3 apiece here in the third period. Puck held in by the Bruins themselves. Anderson tied up Schmaltz. O'Brien is checked at center ice. Picked up now by Jonathan. Gets it back to Rick Smith. Up to the North Star blue line. A loose puck. Gary Sargent after it. Schmaltz after him. Sargent for Zanuzzi. Back to Sargent. Overskated it. Now dumps it to Zanuzzi. Jonathan there underneath. And we will have a stoppage of play right now. For the draw, controlled by the Bruins. Terry O'Reilly with it. O'Reilly moving in, dumps it out front. McNabb couldn't get his stick down on it, and Brian Maxwell clears it down the ice. This will bring an icing call as soon as Dennis O'Brien.
Game so far.
Been an outstanding effort on their part to this point. Battle for the loose puck. Controlled by no one yet. Now the North Stars come away with it. Bobby Smith moves back to center ice. He's got Parisi on his left. Brian Maxwell trailing on the play. Gets it out front to Parisi. Drives the shot. He's over the top of the goal with it. Picked up by Sims for Boston. Now McNabb moves back to center ice. Drop pass for O'Reilly. O'Reilly to the Minnesota blue line. He is dumped by Gary Sargent, and the puck cleared out to center ice by Brian Maxwell, and the crowd loves it. Outstanding defensive play by the North Stars. Here comes McNabb back. You can't let up for a minute on these Bruins, though. McNabb, O'Reilly, and stolen away by Greg Smith. Greg Smith back to the Boston blue line, drives a shot, and Petty kicked it out of there. Bobby Smith controls it, tries to put it out front. Knocked down by McNabb. Smith has it, tried to jam it in. It was deflected away by Doak. They get it out front. A shot by Parisi goes wide to the left. Parisi after it in the near corner. North Stars putting on the pressure now. Picked up by Maneri. Tried to center it. Knocked down by McNabb. McNabb and Maneri go after it. Now O'Reilly comes away with it for Boston. He's checked. Oh, Parisi got away with one there. McNabb back to the North Star blue line. Around to check. Carries on. Dumps it out front, and Gary Edwards comes out to block that. Moving in on it is Doak. Puts it right in the middle. Loose puck cleared away by Brian Maxwell. And Chris Maneri starts back 2-on-1. He has Sharpley with him. Maneri shoots. Petty kicked it out. Good shot by Maneri. Puts it back in front again. And Rick Smith comes away with it. 8:11 left to go in the game. Here's Middleton to the Minnesota blue line. Checked out front by Barrett. And Brad Maxwell has it. Drives it around the boards for Maneri, and Maneri drives it out to center ice. Now Sharpley after it. He's got Fiddler on his left. Sharpley, right between Fiddler's legs. Went right between Mike's legs. They battle along the far boards with 7:50 left to go in the game. Back of the goal, Stars still control it. Sharpley after it. Gets it to Maneri. A centering pass. Nobody there. Fiddler after it. Now Tommy Younghands picks it up. Younghands put it in the crease. Loose puck. Fiddler, bam! Back in the crease area again. Fiddler after it. They take him to the boards. A whistle is stopped and one.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's not going to be our neck if the North Stars don't hang on to this lead. But I'll tell you, I like the way they're playing right now. They're leading, but they're going right after the Bruins.
Gary Sargent with it at his own blue line. Clears it out to center ice. They have to wait for Rattel to get back on side. He does. Per-Olof Grosser after the puck. Off the boards, trying to get it over to Zanuzzi. He's trapped along the near boards by Rattel. Jonathan trying to dig it out. We have a whistle. BCN 11. You'll see number one.
Don't make any silly mistakes, but boy, go for the throat if you can.
Puck comes out front. A drive by O'Brien. Hits traffic. Comes to the near side. Jonathan after it. He muscles Sargent out of the way. Jonathan after the puck. Along the near boards, Sargent takes him to the boards. Two or three other players get in the scramble for the puck. Another whistle. A drive by Sims, and he just missed wide on the right. Schmatz with the shot. Hits traffic and almost carried into the net. Instead, it went over the top of it. Puck back of the goal. Jonathan with some hard work retains possession of it. North Stars trying to take it away from him. It's cleared but not out. Held in by the Bruins as they put on the pressure now. Grosser carries to center ice for Minnesota. Per-Olof Grosser. Boston blue line. Still has the puck. Puts it in front. Anderson tipped it but just missed about a foot wide on the right-hand side. Along the near boards, the Bruins pick it up. Rattel, the smooth skating center for the Boston hockey team. Puts it into the Minnesota zone. Kent-Eric Anderson after it. He's taken to the boards by O'Brien, who's in deep. Rattel puts it out front. Zanuzzi kicks it. It's held in at the blue line. Picked up by Barrett. Fred Barrett just raps it off the boards. This will bring an icing call. As soon as the Bruins catch up with it. 6 minutes left to...
And Doak on defense.
Smith gets the draw back to Greg Smith. Around the boards for Alex Pyrus. Pyrus has it. Trying to dump it out. Schmatz with some hard work. Pyrus along the near boards, dug out by McNabb. McNabb checked by Brad Maxwell. J.P. Parisi back to pick it up. He'll try to bring the face off and does. Wants to get things cleared away and set up again.
5:45 remaining. North Stars, I think, now are really... They'll take the stoppage and play.
You just hope that there's no mistake along the way, because the Bruins are the kind of club you just can't make a mistake against. McNabb and Bob Smith on the draw. This time McNabb gets it out front to Rick Smith. Drives his shot, and again he just missed about a foot wide on the outside of the goal. Parisi controls it. Greg Smith with it. He's checked. Goes into the boards with Miller. McNabb in to dig it out. They come out with it to Doak. He fires his shot. They score! May have been tipped in front.
I think it's questionable whether Edwards ever saw it.
Well, loose puck. Marcotte gets it back to Doak. Doak to Rick Smith. At center ice. Gets it to Middleton. Into the Minnesota end. Younghans goes in along with Marcotte. Marcotte puts it out front. Mike Fiddler trying to catch up with it. Two Bruins back. Fiddler waiting for help. Has Sharpley with him now. Tries to get around a man. And back to break it up is Rick Smith. Feeds Middleton. Middleton gets around a check by Barrett. Middleton moving in. Checked out front and all tied up by Gary Sargent. Tom Younghans dumps it back behind the net, and Sargent clears it around the boards for Fiddler. Dumps it out to center ice. Dennis O'Brien with it now. O'Brien. Mike Fiddler picks it up. Fiddler for Sharpley, a little bit too far. Fiddler carries on, goes in after it. Dennis O'Brien comes away with it, checked by Sharpley, almost lost it. O'Brien in his own zone. Sharpley knocks it off his stick, but Rick Smith is there to cover up. Sharpley over after the puck. O'Brien takes him to the boards. Sharpley carries on, gets it out front to Sargent, fires it, he just went wide to the red, and Petty is out of the goal to smother that one. Right.
Tell you, give Glenn Sharpley a big assist on this one, even though nothing came of it. Gary's mad at himself. He thought he had something to work with there, and he missed it.
I think he did have the corner of the net.
The Rangers have beaten Vancouver 6-2.
Boston controls the faceoff. Al Sims after the puck. Clears it out to center ice, intercepted by Greg Smith, and he drives it right back in again. Jim Petty, who has stopped 33 of 35 North Star shots tonight. Rattel, knocked down by Greg Smith, and Greg still has the puck for the North Stars. Gets it back to Brosser. Ole Brosser moves to his backhand, takes the shot, and Petty just barely got the right skate out to flick that one outside the post. Picked up by Brosser again. Ole leads the way back. Feeds it over on the side for Anderson. Anderson shoots. Petty saves and falls under.
That was a tremendous stop. Anderson will get the pass on left wing. He's on his off wing. He was in pretty deep, didn't have a lot to work with, and Petty came out to cut down the angle, so he just had to open it.
Draw controlled by the Bruins. Gary Doak, who got the tying goal, comes away with it. McNabb at center ice. Trying to go around a check by Barrett, and offside called.
Kevin Smith on the faceoff.
Puck controlled by the Bruins. Terry O'Reilly with it. Dumps it into the North Star zone, gives chase. Pyrus goes in after him. He drops it out front. Steered wide by Winsink. And Gary Edwards comes out and knocks that aside, and he's called for playing the puck above. And I tell you, if you weren't here tonight, you've missed a great hockey game. Chris Maneri with Sharpley on his left. Pass deflected by Doak. Fiddler dumps it back into the Boston zone. Rick Smith knocked it down and cleared it out to center ice. Puck goes in. We have another offside call. Al Sims with it for Dennis O'Brien, the former North Star at center ice. Into the Minnesota end. Gary Edwards back at the goal. Gary Sargent. Headman's for Fiddler. Fiddler on the left wing. Crisscrosses with Sharpley. Cranks up, fired a shot. And North Stars and the Sabres at 6 p.m. right here on 11. You won't want to miss it, especially if it's anything like this one has been. Dennis O'Brien. Maxwell knocks his pass down, tried to clear it out. Kent-Eric Anderson trying to kick it out, cannot. Well, he did get it out, and Anderson gets the draw back to Brad Maxwell. Maxwell sends it over to Greg Smith. Brosser lost it at center ice, and Rattel dumps it back into the Minnesota end. Gary Edwards back at the goal. Brad Maxwell almost lost it. Did. Edwards clears it away from the side of the goal. Dumped back in by Schmaltz to Marcotte. Centering pass, and it's picked off by Brosser. North Stars start back. Brosser trying to get it over on the wing to Zanuzzi. It was deflected at the Boston blue line. Brosser with some hard work catches up with it. Brosser gets it up to Ron Zanuzzi. Zanuzzi trying to get it back to Anderson. Dumps it into the far corner. Anderson goes into the corner along with O'Brien, and they kick it loose. Al Sims comes away with it for Boston. Less than 2 minutes to go in the game. Puck driven into the Minnesota end. Grosser after it quickly. Picks it up. Dumps it back in the goal for Greg Smith. Smith looking for an opening. Checked out front. Schmutz after it. Edwards saves. Falls on top of the puck. Breaking the action. This McNabb on the draw. All-important face-off. Sharpley gets it back to Fred Barrett. Barrett around the boards for J.P. Parisi, for Glenn Sharpley, back for Parisi. J.P. off the boards, held in by Terry O'Reilly. Picked off by Barrett, and he dumps it out to center ice. Gary Doak in his own zone. Knocked down by Barrett. Gary Sargent after it. He and Jonathan go to the boards. Parisi gets in there. The puck knocked loose by O'Reilly, and it's picked off by Bobby Smith. Smith starts back to center ice with a minute left to go in the period. And the game. Bobby Smith carries on, showing good strength. Put it in the slot, and there was nobody there. Pyrus picks it up. Back for Smith. Smith out front. Waits to his backhand. Bobby Smith checked out front. Now Pyrus picks it up. Alex Pyrus back for J.P. Parisi. 48 seconds left. Parisi drives his shot. That hit one of the Bruins in the shins. And now Terry O'Reilly starts McNabb back at center ice. He's checked by Barrett, who is way out. Knocked in by Jonathan, but Gary Sargent picks it up. Sargent feeds a pass to Parisi. Parisi puts it on Smith's stick. Bobby Smith gets by Dennis O'Brien. O'Brien hauls him off it. Parisi drives it around the boards, gets it over to Pyrus. Pyrus picks it up. Alex Pyrus was hauled down from behind. We try to force the face-off, and the Bruins come away with it. 17 seconds left to go in the game. They dump it into the North Star zone. Quickly back after it is Alex Pyrus. He's checked. 9 seconds left. 8 seconds left. Smith along the near boards dumps it out to center ice. Picked up by Schmutz. Trying to drive it back in. He hit Bobby Smith. 1 second, and that's it. A tie hockey game. The Minnesota North Stars and the Boston Bruins, and a hard-fought battle here at the Met Sports Center tonight, end up in a 2-2 deadlock. We'll be back.
Mike Freeman.